Welcome to another episode of Davinci Resolve Tips and Tricks. In the previous introductory episode, we saw how to move a timeline from Premiere Pro to Davinci Resolve for grading. Now I'm gonna give you a quick overview of the color page. So without further ado, we jump to the color page, which is this one down here. Pretty much by default, I think this is what you're gonna see. It's divided in left panels, the viewer, the right panel, which mostly is going to be composed by your node tree, different ways of seeing your edit here, your clips to grade, tools here like grading tools and scopes for you to visualize what you do. So let's start from left to right, top to bottom. So as I said, most probably by default you're gonna get the gallery opened when you open it for the first time, and think this as presets. Let me do something very quick, very silly, something that you will never do to a video, but very obvious for you to see. So we created in this single node a grade. So you can right click on the viewer and grab still. This is your preset now. So let me delete this node. I have 3 previous grades that I did for the tutorial. So you can scrub through and watch the whole clip with the grade that it's on this preset. If you find one that you like, say this one, right click and you apply grade, and all the node tree will be applied. But let's say that I'm not happy with it and then I prefer this one, I don't know why. You right click, apply grade, and it will apply that grade. But let me show you something. For instance, we can apply this grade, but instead of applying the grade, I append node graph. It will add this grade, however many nodes, to the end of your existing node tree. Yeah. So obviously the black and white, now it's blue, but you can see that it kept the vignette. I think it was contrast. And well, this was the black and white node. Let me delete. And I'm gonna go quickly to power grades. These are looks that I have made, liked, and saved. And some quick starting points for different cameras and node tree styles that I have here. Let me apply this bleach bypass. Yeah. So this bleach bypass has these however many nodes. So that's the main difference. The stills, once you close this project and open a new one, they will disappear. They live, so presets for only this project. Power grades, they will forever live in your DaVinci system, and they will appear in every single project you open, so you can always refer back to them. The other thing about stills that is worth mentioning is that, for instance, I'm happy with this grade. So because it's a 3-camera shoot, the 3 cameras were the same cameras, but they were utilizing different lenses and photo lenses. So they have a different contrast and tint. So they are not exactly the same. So these 3 cameras will need to be graded in shot by shot basis. For instance, I can come to the shot, I can copy the same look, right? I can apply the same look. I mean, they clearly don't look the same. They're not matching. What you can do is use quick references. Get it as a grab still. It will appear here, which is already this one. And on this shot, clicking here, we can grab it as a reference, right? And there's many ways of displaying this reference, obviously depending how your shot is. You can have sort of a picture-in-picture thing. But usually, left or right, this works, etc. So it's a really good tool for matching shots. And then timelines again is you can jump on any timeline. I have the other timeline that I showed you before with the proxies, and these are graded. Again, I just did a complete difference just for you to see. This is not graded, for you to see the difference. But I can grab grades from different timelines and just apply them to the current one. I'm gonna close this. Next we have LUTs. There's a few LUTs come built in with DaVinci. Obviously we shot this on Sony and we need to convert this to Rec 709, so that's a conversion. My problem with LUTs is that all that information is contrast, color, blah blah blah, it's all baked in here and there's no way of changing it. And media pool, if you need to grab another reference from, I can have a photo of British Bake Off and I can bring it to compare it and try to emulate the look of that show. Let's crack on. So on this side we have timeline, so you can see timeline. Obviously at this time I have one timeline. Clips, so it's this like modifiers that you can apply and create. So there's some few options by default, like graded clips. I will show you all the graded clips that I did. Many other things I'm going to explain. As you've seen on this clip number 22, or the first two, there's a color around the number of the shot, and that means that that shot has been graded and this one hasn't. Obviously this shows the notes, shows where you're gonna work on your node tree. Input to output. Effects, for you to apply effects. There's a lot of effects in Davinci Resolve, and even more and better on the paid version. I usually have my favorites here, so the ones I use the most. I'm gonna leave it all so we can grab a few later. And Lightbox is a very powerful viewing like panel. I usually have it on my secondary screen. It shows you, you can go like a super small contact sheet, and it lets you like see and evaluate the balance of the colors on your whole film. Obviously this is all slog, so it's pretty flat, there's no colors, but once you have it and you see the divided by scenes and moods and whatnot, it really makes sense to see how those colors balance, and also to see if there's if there's one or a few shots that don't really match the balance of the rest of the scene. As I said, you can grab only the graded clips. They will show here. You can make groups. Because I was part of the shoot, I know that this last scene is already this. You can see the green link, a night scene. So I already created. I'm not gonna create it again, but a group called night scene. Another close-ups. So yeah, you can come to group, go to night scene, have only those clips that are part of the night scene, come out of Lightbox and have here only the night scene shots. And I did something similar to the close-ups, a few close-ups here come out, and you have only these close-up shots. Yeah, so it's a way of grouping clips in a way that makes sense for you to grade. So you can group them in many ways. If you track a few, this for the sake of the tutorial, let me create a quick mask around this spot. Track it quickly. You'll stick there like glue. Yeah, Davinci is super powerful at masking and tracking. And then you come here to see only the track shots. Boom, the only track shot. If you need to change the track on many shots at the same time, this is quite powerful. Even noise reduction, that sometimes I think I have in one clip, but disabled, is very CPU hungry. So it's better to enable the noise reduction at the very end of the process. So in this way you can bring up all the clips that you have applied noise reduction and then enable the effect. Yeah, really like working with Lightbox on my secondary screen, full screen. Cool, and now on to the grading tools. I'm gonna fly through quickly that. So this first icon is for camera raw, is when you work with raw footage. This is not raw. This is color checker. So it's like a chart that some cinematographers have. I have a small one, the passport video. You show this to all cameras in the very first shot, and every time you change the light setup. And then here you just grab this like an overlay, you put it on the chart and press match, and it will it will accurately give you the exact white balance. Panel is the color wheels, and I think by default this is what you're gonna see. Probably you're accustomed to see the 3 wheels in Premiere, which is lift, gamma and gain. I think Lumetri calls these shadow, midtone and highlight. The one thing Lumetri doesn't have, but for me I use this quite a lot, this offset. And offset works on the overall image at the same time, where gain or highlights obviously work more into highlights and then starts bleeding into the midtones. Gamma works mostly on the midtones and bleeds into darks and highlights. Shadows works mostly on the shadow side of the image, and it starts bleeding as if you push it further into the gamma. So this is hue and saturation. and this wheel here is luminance. Okay, to show you some examples, let me add a bit of contrast. So let's call this primary, which I'm gonna just do contrast and bring the highlights a little bit here. With these wheels we control the luminance, so we're gonna lift the midtones, bring down the highlights a little bit, and you know, this is what people call push and pull. You know, push from one side, pull from the other one, until you achieve the look that you're looking for. I'm gonna create another node, so we can call this balance, so we can work a little bit on the colors for you to see what it does, not what I would probably do to this image, but it's just as an example. And balance, yeah, be super subtle with this. Look, I'm already like half the way through and this is like unusable. Split the difference, still too much. So these are meant to be used with the proper control surface and the wheels, so with the mouse, be subtle. So I'm gonna warm up the highlights a tiny little bit and cool down the shadows ever so slightly. Yeah, before and after. You can see the colors here and the color cast, how those shadows start to be more blue, and these highlights here are receiving a bit of a tint. They go from white to a tiny bit orange, and the offset will lift in here in the luminance the whole image overall. Shadows, midtones, and highlights lift gamma and gain at the same time, and also it's gonna change the color of the overall image. So for me, this is the right tool for color balancing, because it changed the whole scene at the same time, rather than, yes, we have this option here that I'll show you. Let me do it on separate now and call it white balance. So this is an eyedropper, and you can grab whatever you consider is white or should be white in your scene. Let's grab paper by default, should be white, and in modify ever so slightly. -100 is not a lot, and -16 is virtually nothing. So before and after, there's not a huge change. Let me get clips. We can come to the parade, a little bit here, but I'm actually not happy because visually this is more harmonious than pushing the reds. So for me, if you're looking to do a proper white balance, I think this is your right tool, because it's changed the image at the same time. Yeah, we have, as you see before, contrast, and this is where the contrast starts and ends. A bit of mid-tone detail, and this is good for softening skins. I'm gonna just crank it up so you can see, and obviously towards the other side it makes everything grungy. And then we have saturation, color booster, shadows, highlights. You can play with these. This is the same thing, but in a different way. And then we have a log version, which this is a little bit more precise. So let me add, let's call this log for the sake of example. So I'm going to inject a little bit of teal into the shadows, and you can actually see, yeah. So I'm cranking it all the way, and I'm gonna replicate on the primaries so you can see the difference. So this is what the log does, that it really goes into those darkest areas. And yeah, I mean, these are much more sensitive. So when you push them really hard, then it starts bleeding on the rest of the image. But then it's known that the log wheels are for accents, for helping out with difficult things. But you won't achieve a realistic look by working much on the log wheels. Okay, so here I created a gradient for you to see the difference between how the curves react in the color wheels or in log. Actually, let me bring the scope a bit bigger. We're here in the color wheels, so I'm going to increase the gain, and you can see how the curve reacts. So it's very organic, and same, bring it down. Yeah, so yeah, if you can see not only in the curve of the image, how the transition between this, what I called before, bleeding, how it reacts. Let's see how it reacts in log. Look at this. I'm gonna up. I can already see a line here, the division of how harsh this, it only works. It's capping its effect here in slightly below the midtones. Yeah, so you can see it's quite harsh. Let's try the midtones or the gamma, and this time I'm gonna push it back and see how weird what it's doing. It's just tackling that section only, and how the midtones of the gamma works on the color wheels. How organic this curve is. How it's reacting. So it's much more natural, like organic, realistic. This. Don't use the log wheels for primary grading. This is just for tonal effects and accents, as I call it. So do use mainly your primary wheels for the broader look and color separation. That's that. Then we have an HDR panel. You have to come here and designate what color space you're using, like Sony S Gamma and Gamma S-Log3. And now these are fine-tuned to work on that color space. By clicking here on these icons up here, they will show you sort of the mask, so you can see what areas you will affect by using this. So specular highlights, obviously the hottest highlights on the frame. So you can see in the waveform that the highest peaks are this one and this one. And I'll touch on waveforms and scopes overall, but this reads the image left to right, bottom to top. So I can see that this line and this line are clearly this highlight here, and you can see on the waveform how it's been highlighted. This one here, I'm going to create a new node so we can do this. So you can see if I click on these icons here, this will show you the mask of the areas that things will be affected. So if we go to black, although it's showing me that whatever I do in these wheels will affect those black areas, I'm gonna lift those blacks heavily. I'm gonna enable and disable, and nothing, literally nothing happens. It happens a little bit here on the waveform. Look at that, just a tiny bit. But because our monitor is not HDR, we are not really seeing that difference, because my monitor is not able to represent that value. But once you get into the darks, already cranking it up, horrible. So yeah, now this is affecting. Obviously, I push this super hard there. Just for demonstration example. But if I really want to inject a bit of even warmth, look at that. Yeah. So those midtones rather than electric blue. Now it's a more decent blue. Anyway, again, I'm just playing with the tools to show you what they do. And then you have the global, just like the offset. This is an overall. This is another technique that I'm going to explain a later, shorter trick video, and it's going before the primary. But if I just do the exposure, because this wheel now is calibrated to my color space, as I say, it's or not anymore, sorry. So color space, Sony S Gamma 3 and Gamma S Log 3. Then how the exposure reacts like your camera. So if I do minus 0.5, this would have been how the camera would have displayed by shooting half a full stop less, or that's -2, or -1, just a full stop down. But look how, if I keep going down, how well it's recovering those highlights that they may seem, apart from this specular, which are this one, and still that this has 0 detail. All those highlights that were quite hot on the wall, we had a lot of texture there. So there's a lot to play with, really. Look, the only things that are clipping are the reflections. Next, we have, this is an RGB mixer. There's 3 different, you can mess about with RGB channels. This last tab is for noise reduction. Noise reduction is the very first node that you have to create. So the first thing is denoising, and from then on you crack on with your grade. So because I already edited this, I know that in the shadows there was, it was quite dark or darker, and there was quite a bit of noise. But this is easy to, with DaVinci, just boom, pretty much done. I can go a bit further and do before and after. Before, all the noise. After, it cleaned up very, very well. If you feel that you lose essential detail on what it needs to be sharp, usually when applying noise reduction towards the end of your tree, you add sharpness. There's a few options. The quickest and very strong one, but it applies the same sharpness to the whole image, is by coming here, sharpness, go down with this radius at about 47. I wouldn't go any lower than 47. I'm gonna touch on this very quickly. These curves, let me just add a random node so I can, there's a few options here to unlinked and work separately. A few nice touches of working only on the low soft, so really, if you want to get that vintage look, this works. Just lift those creamy low lights, very Instagrammy. But if you take it too far, if you don't, it just starts opening the shadows. You can see here, I don't know if by the compression, I'm gonna do before and after here as well. If you have like a hard vignette because of a lens or whatnot, it starts breaking, softening those harsh, like deep blacks. Many options more there. The color warper is quite cool. You sort of select color. Let's select this teal here, and we can just, if you concentrate, actually let's zoom in so you can see better. So I'm grabbing this teal, so the color warper is saying, okay, this is the color that you're grabbing, and then you can start tweaking. 16 is a really intricate mesh, so you can go 12, which is much broader, so you can grab that color again and it will be more broad with the change. And of course you can grab more nodes, that one, because it was darker, and now we made this product a bit bluer, so we changed the product completely. It may affect other shades that are blue, but I'm doing on and off. There's many other options here, but you can control the saturation of that color you're picking from here, so you can see how it's getting more saturated. The luminance a bit darker as well. Yeah, I'm fine-tune the hue from here rather than from this graph here. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Let's reset this. Let's go to the qualifiers. Are just think them as masks based on hue, saturation, and luminance. So if we grab the same color, I'm just grabbing that hue. If I press Shift H, or if you come here, you see what you're selecting, and from there you can fine-tune your selection. So we have this selected, with that selected, again, think as a mask, so you can come back to, say, the offset and just choose any new color you prefer, a bit of light orange. We can do before and after. Everything is looking all right, and like many other masks, you can add more colors to that, so all the other bits that sort of didn't catch, and then again you can go back and Shift H and fine tune it. Or if you only want to precise that, you can jump on masks, so you can create just quick power mask and say just concentrate on that. We qualify the color and we mask to wherever we want to correct. So you can see I'm playing back, and it follows. So it's all good. Okay, so and now I'm gonna show you the tracker. So I'm gonna do a quick custom mask around her face. Very quick. Then you can soften it. You can extend inside or out. The softening in and out. Many other options here, but we're gonna go quickly to track, and we're gonna track. We're gonna see how good. I mean, let me look at this. You can see how it towards the end, how it turns as well in 3D. Super powerful. So all these things could be used in combination. So we have the mask. Let's go to the flood. We can qualify her skin. So now we have the mask, a qualification inside, just her skin, and being tracked. So again, this is stupid. There you go. So more or less, you have that. Yeah, and then you have this magic mask object. You can do it by object or by person, and features. You can do face, hair, and it's all automated. It's like the AI is getting better and better in Davinci Resolve. Overall things like blur or sharpening, and then we have the keying, which is the gain of the node. So let's see. Yeah, let's again say, oh no, I went too far. So you can reduce let's call it the opacity, the key output of that specific node, and some other options here as well. Yeah, so like transform on the edit page, and the tilt, and you can flip things with like this distortion and things, but you can do it by clip, by node, by the whole project. Yeah, let's jump on the scopes. Usually if you work on a secondary screen, you can have it like this, and like 4 at the same time. Well, you can have them all if you want to, or 2 you're most using, and then you could, I don't know, do parade and waveform. I think 4 is probably the best when you use it on a secondary screen, and you can choose your favorite scopes. I'm gonna touch on the 3 most essential, which is the waveform that reads luminance. It reads luminance from left to right, bottom, top, just like the image. So for an example, if I'm gonna grab a mask and I put it around here, and then bump the exposure, you can see here on the waveform how it starts to push that area up and up. And when it touches the 100 and starts flattening the line, it means that line is probably here or here. Can actually get the qualifier from here. Yeah, so all this is just pure white, is blown out. And same you can say for going the other direction. So I'm affecting this area, which is this one, and it's going towards the blacks, which is 0. Then go back to exposure, and as I like to do with this. So everything, the whole image is coming down and flattening towards the darks, or going up and flattening towards the highlights. So that's waveform. Luminance, there's many ways of seeing this. Some people prefer with RGB, so many people use it like that just to see. Let me do something again on this node here. Let's grab the offset. Yeah, so you can see to what point here that the blue, green, and red channel are quite far apart. So that means that the whites are not white, because for white to be white, red, green, and blue have to be 100% or equal measurements. So it's another way of maybe graphically, when you get to land all the colors together, you can say, okay, this is looking much better than when the colors were all over the place like that. So yeah, maybe even that, just to really precise white balance, be tiny bit greener. Yeah, but I like it a bit bluish, so I leave it like that. Same you can say about the parade. The parade is the RGB levels. So if you want white to be perfect white, these 3 will have to be pretty much balanced. So I can see that the highlights just about, smidge it down on the reds. is barely noticeable, but it is on the scope. So I tend to look at the scopes quite a lot, although my screen is not showing or demonstrating like huge effect. But this is not calibrated high-end screen. I'm looking at 2019 iMac 5K screen, just pretty good, decent, nice brightness, but it's not a fully calibrated professional monitor. Well, I'm happy with this. I mean, this looks pretty even. So that's the Parade and the Vector scope. That is my third favorite. So it ties up with the offset. So magenta colors here, just like the offset, red, yellow, green, cyan, and blue. And this line here, that you don't have it by default, but you come to the options and add I had the 2x zoom. When the colors are quite faint and you really want to see what landing, you can go 2x, so you can see more of. But this is just for the sake of seeing when the colors are not super saturated. But when they are okay, just don't use it, because it may lie. It may say that one color is clipping when it's not. So this is the real thing. Sorry, I was saying that this line is a skin tone indicator. So by default, it's not there. So click it. I recommend that you have it, so you know where the colors of the skin tones should land, and should land in that line. Obviously, the more outside, more towards the circle, it's more saturated. And the very center of things is white. So it's just like the wheel. The center is white, and from there, look, I'm moving this offset, the whole image towards magenta. Look at the vector scope, and then I'm start moving, red, green, yellow, green, teal, blue, and back to a more balanced image in the center. The very last thing here. These are by corrector. So corrector are these nodes. So they call add node corrector node, and layer mixer is this one here. This is a layer mixer. You can see here, and this is it's like again. Let me do another silly example. And so these are keyframes, right? So this is the node number 13. I come to node 13, and I activate a keyframe here, and as it gets close, we go back to we change. We go back to green as the camera comes in. So you can literally keyframe and animate everything you do, from noise reduction to effects to node formats to power curves to even masks. I create a mask. So this circle window, and let's say that as it comes a bit closer, I'll just open it up or start like fading it in, concentrating it, and that animates. So this was a brief but 35-minute long introduction to the color page. There's way more to explore, but I think you now have the basic knowledge to go do an experiment, go a few clips and start moving things and see how things react, and always do it with intent, with an intention, with an idea. Next episode, I'm gonna touch on color management and node structure. Until next time.